Alright, let's be real. Superhero fatigue is a thing. The MCU, once the king of Hollywood, is limping its way through a multiversal identity crisis. We've gone from the jaw-dropping, world-shaking hype of Avengers Endgame to, well, some confused timelines, overstuffed Disney Plus series, and villains who don't exactly send chills down your spine. Marvel isn't dead by any means, but the magic isn't what it used to be, and that's where the DCU sees an opening.
Everybody, clear the area!
James Gunn and Peter Safran are betting big on something bold, not just copying Marvel's formula, but rewriting what a connected universe can be. Instead of forcing every story into one giant puzzle piece, the DCU is aiming for something richer, riskier, and more unpredictable. Think less paint-by-numbers superhero movie, and more every project is its own graphic novel. That's the philosophy Gunn keeps preaching, and with the brand new Superman already making waves, fans are buzzing about whether DC can actually pull this off. But here's the real question: can the DCU beat the MCU in the coming years? Not just at the box office for one or two films, people will still talk about a decade from now. Today, we're breaking it all down. From strategy to storytelling, from bold risks to hidden advantages, we're diving deep into 10 key ways the DCU could actually outpace Marvel's empire. This isn't just about capes and costumes, it's about redefining the superhero genre itself. And trust me, you're gonna want to stick around till the end, because some of these moves are game changers. Number 1. The current state of the MCU and why DC has an opening. If you rewind to 2019, Marvel was untouchable. Endgame wasn't just a movie, it was a cultural earthquake. It felt like everyone on Earth was in a theater that weekend, cheering, crying, and screaming when Cap lifted Mjolnir. Marvel had done the impossible. 20-plus movies, a decade of storytelling, all culminating in a once-in-a-lifetime cinematic event. But here's the catch. When you hit the mountaintop, where do you go from there? That's the problem Marvel has been wrestling with ever since. Instead of keeping the train sleek and streamlined, they expanded in every possible direction. Disney Plus shows, multiverse crossovers, experimental side projects. Some of it worked. WandaVision was cool and fresh. Well, let's be honest, it left fans more confused than hyped. Characters were popping in and out with no clear purpose. Villains like Kang fizzled before they could make a real impact. And audiences started to feel like they needed homework just to understand the next release. Meanwhile, the box office numbers started telling the story Marvel didn't want to hear. Movies like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and the Marvels underperformed massively, and fans who used to camp outside theaters started waiting for Disney Plus drops instead. The superhero juggernaut that once dominated the global box office suddenly looked vulnerable. And this is exactly where DC smells opportunity. Think about it. The MCU is in a transition phase, trying to figure out its identity after the Infinity Saga. It's bloated, it's stretched thin, and for the first time in years, audiences are looking around for something new. If DC can step in right now with a clear plan, bold stories, and characters that feel fresh yet iconic, they don't just compete, they can steal the spotlight. Because here's the truth. The world still loves superheroes. They're not tired of capes and masks. They're tired of mediocrity. And if Marvel can't deliver the magic, fans are more than ready to give DC a chance. Number 2. DCU's fresh start with Superman. Why it matters so much. When you think of superheroes, one name still sits on top of the mountain: Superman. He's not just another comic book character, he's the blueprint. The guy in the red cape was saving the world decades before Iron Man even existed. So, when James Gunn decided to relaunch the DCU, he didn't start with Batman, Wonder Woman, or even a big Justice League team-up. He went back to the roots. He started with Superman. And honestly, that's genius. Why? Because Superman is more than a character. He's a statement. He represents hope, idealism.
I try to make the best choices I can. I screw up all the time. But that is being human. And that's my greatest strength.
And that larger-than-life sense of wonder that superhero movies have been missing lately. Marvel gave us flawed heroes, sarcastic quips, and messy family drama, and it worked brilliantly for a while. But now, audiences are craving sincerity again. They want a hero who's unapologetically good, someone who inspires instead of just entertains. Gunn knew this, and he built his DCU's foundation on it. The new Superman film isn't just about box office numbers, though let's be clear, it crushed them. We're talking one of Warner Brothers' biggest superhero openings openings since the Batman. But more importantly, it set a tone. Heartfelt, cinematic, hopeful, without being cheesy. Gunn didn't try to reinvent Superman into a brooding anti-hero. He leaned into what makes the character timeless, and the payoff? Fans walked out of theaters saying, that felt like Superman again. This fresh start matters because it wipes away years of confusion. The Snyderverse was divisive, the DCEU was chaotic, and audiences never really knew what to expect from film to film. But now, Superman is the North Star of the DCU. He's the anchor, the moral compass, the character that all the other stories can orbit around. Just like Tony Stark kicked off the MCU, Clark Kent is doing the same for the DCU, but with a very different kind of energy. If this momentum holds, Superman won't just be a good movie, it'll be the launchpad for a universe that feels intentional, and that's exactly the shot in the arm DC needed. Number 3. The graphic novel approach. Why DCU's variety could be its secret weapon.
Everybody, clear the area!
One of the biggest mistakes the MCU made post-Endgame was falling into sameness. Don't get me wrong, Marvel is still solid at crafting crowd pleasers, but let's be honest, too many projects started to feel like copy-paste. Same tone, same quippy humor, same visual style, just with different heroes swapped in. After a while, audiences could predict the rhythm of every film. Action set piece, big CGI battle, but it's also exhausting when there's no real change of flavor. James Gunn seems determined not to let the DCU fall into that trap. His whole vision revolves around treating each movie or series like its own graphic novel. Translation: every project should feel unique in tone. For example, Superman plays like an uplifting epic rooted in hope, while Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is being described as a cosmic sci-fi odyssey. Then you've got Lanterns, which is shaping up to be a grounded, detective-style thriller with Green Lanterns as intergalactic cops. Oh, and don't forget Clayface, which Gunn has teased will lean into R-rated body horror. That's not just diversity, it's strategy. By making each project stand out stylistically, the DCU avoids superhero fatigue. You're not just watching another cape movie, you're watching a different kind of story every time. It keeps fans guessing. Think about it, Marvel rarely experiments this far. Sure, they dabbled with horror in Doctor Strange 2 or comedy in Thor Ragnarok, but they always circled back to the same familiar MCU flavor. Gunn's approach is more daring. It tells creators, bring your vision, make it your own, and don't worry if it doesn't look like the last movie. That level of freedom is how you get cult classics, game changers. If DC sticks to this graphic novel philosophy, it won't just compete with Marvel. It'll redefine what a cinematic universe even means. And honestly, that might be exactly what audiences are craving. Number 4. Shared universe without the homework. How DCU balances connectivity and standalones.
Back off, guy.
Here's the thing, Marvel's shared universe used to feel like magic. Seeing Iron Man and Thor standing side by side for the first time, that was goosebump-inducing. But over time, the magic turned into homework. If you missed a Disney Plus show, suddenly you didn't understand half the references in the next movie. If you skipped one side quest film, the main event felt incomplete. The MCU became less about enjoying a single story. James Gunn seems to understand that audiences are tired of this grind. With the DCU, he's promising something different. A universe that connects without becoming a chore. Think of it like this. You can watch Superman and enjoy it as a full, satisfying story on its own, but if you also watch Creature Commandos or Peacemaker Season 2, you'll catch the bonus connections, Easter eggs, and character arcs that reward longtime fans. Those connections feel like extras, not requirements. Take Frank Grillo's Rick Flag Sr., for example. He'll pop up in Creature Commandos, then reappear in Superman, and later cross paths in Peacemaker. Same with Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner, who's set to be a recurring thread in multiple projects. These aren't overwhelming multiverse puzzles. They're familiar faces weaving in and out, giving the world texture and continuity without derailing individual stories. This balance is critical because it means the DCU can attract both hardcore fans and casual viewers. If Gunn sticks to this formula, the DCU could solve one of the MCU's biggest problems. Instead of drowning audiences in interconnected homework, DC offers them a choice. Jump into the universe at any entry point and still have a good time. Number 5. Creative freedom and bold risks. Why DCU feels exciting again.
You've always been wrong about me, Lex. I'm as human as anyone.
One thing James Gunn has made crystal clear is this: the DCU isn't going to play it safe. He's not interested in building a factory line of same-looking, same-sounding superhero flicks. Instead, he's encouraging filmmakers to go weird, go wild, and push boundaries. And honestly, that's exactly the kind of energy DC needs right now. Just look at the upcoming slate. You've got Clayface, a movie that's leaning into straight-up horror. Not just comic book dark, but actual R-rated body horror vibes. That's not something Marvel would ever greenlight in its mainline MCU. Then there's Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is being described as a gritty, cosmic sci-fi western. And Lanterns, that show's being pitched as a detective thriller with a mix of true detective and space opera. Each of these projects feels different, risky, and confident in its identity. Compare that to Marvel, let's be honest, often smooths out its directors' voices to keep everything tonally consistent. Even Sam Raimi, the king of horror camp, had to rein in his style for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. With DC, Gunn is doing the opposite. He's saying, bring your flavor, make your project stand alone, don't worry about matching a house style. That kind of freedom is catnip for directors and writers who want to make something memorable. And risks don't just attract bold creators, they also attract audiences. When fans know a DC project could be scary, heartfelt, comedic, or even experimental, it keeps them guessing. That unpredictability builds anticipation. It makes each release feel like an event, instead of just another checkbox on a giant franchise calendar. Number 6. The power of tone. Why hopeful Superman beats endless snark.
Dude.
If there's one thing Marvel has perfected, it's the art of the quip. Every hero from Iron Man to Ant-Man has mastered the sarcastic comeback. It's witty, it's charming, and for years, it worked brilliantly. But here's the problem.
Let's go. Ah, crap.
When everyone talks in jokes, the stakes stop feeling real. Audiences laugh, sure, but they don't always feel. And after more than a decade of snark, people are craving sincerity again. That's where Superman swoops in. James Gunn's Superman doesn't try to be edgy or ironic. It doesn't undercut emotional moments with a joke. Instead, it leans into earnestness, the very thing Marvel often avoids. Clark Kent is portrayed as a beacon of hope, someone who inspires through kindness and conviction, not just punchlines and explosions. And let's be honest, that feels refreshing. Because here's the truth, sincerity is risky in 2025. We live in a meme-saturated, irony-driven world where it's easy to make fun of optimism. But when you see it done well, when you watch Superman save the day, not because he has to, but because he believes in people, you realize how much the superhero genre needs that warmth again. And this tonal shift could be the DCU's secret sauce. Instead of trying to outsnark Marvel, Gunn is zagging where they zig. He's giving audiences characters who wear their hearts on their sleeves, who remind us why we fell in love with superheroes in the first place. Think about it. Marvel has plenty of flawed, sarcastic anti-heroes, but DC can dominate the space of genuine mythic icons. Superman isn't alone either. Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and even characters like Supergirl can bring back that larger-than-life sense of awe. If Marvel is about relatable heroes with messy problems, DC can be about inspirational heroes who remind us to be better. Number 7. Recurrence without overload. How DC is using characters smartly.
An implied vow.
Every time there's something he doesn't want to do, he says it's part of some vow.
One of the MCU's biggest selling points early on was the thrill of crossover. Seeing Nick Fury pop up at the end of Iron Man, that was electric. Suddenly every movie felt crammed with cameos, set up for future projects and crossover obligations. The DCU seems to be approaching this with a lighter touch. Instead of stuffing every project with 5 cameos and 3 sequel teases, Gunn is planting recurring characters in strategic, organic ways. For example, Frank Grillo's Rick Flag Sr. is set to appear in Creature Commandos, then cross over into Superman, and later pop up in Peacemaker Season 2. It's the same character, but his appearances serve the story, not just a checklist. Then you've got Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, a Green Lantern with a very specific personality. He's not going to cameo in everything, but when he does show up across projects, it creates continuity and fan excitement. The point isn't to overwhelm audiences with endless threads, it's to create a sense of a living, breathing world where characters naturally weave in and out of each other's lives. This strategy is clever because it gives fans what they want, connectivity without the fatigue that comes from Marvel's oversaturation. You don't feel like every movie is an advertisement for the next one. Instead, it feels like you're following a set of characters in a shared world where connections add spice rather than dominate the meal. And here's the kicker. This approach actually strengthens the universe over time. Meanwhile, hardcore fans get the reward of spotting those connective threads. It's accessibility and depth rolled into one. If the DCU keeps playing this smart, they'll sidestep one of Marvel's biggest mistakes. Number 8. The importance of story first. Why DC's planning could outlast Marvel's calendar game. Here's a dirty little secret about Hollywood. Release calendars often drive the creative process more than actual storytelling, and Marvel is a prime example. The MCU has become such a massive machine that Disney's schedule almost dictates when a movie has to exist. Even if the script isn't ready, even if the creative vision isn't fully baked, the studio will still push a project forward to meet a release date. That's why we've seen some of Marvel's recent outings feel rushed. James Gunn and Peter Safran are making it clear they want to do things differently with the DCU. Their philosophy? Don't greenlight a project until the story is rock solid. Gunn has said more than once that scripts are king, and that production only moves when the narrative is ready. Fans can feel when a movie was rushed out the door, and they can also feel when a story has been given the time it deserves. Look at the launch of Superman. That film didn't just drop because Warner Brothers needed a summer tentpole. It launched because Gunn believed in the script, the tone, and the story it was trying to tell. And the results spoke for themselves. Critics and fans embraced it as one of the best Superman portrayals in decades. That's what happens when you let story lead the way instead of the release calendar. This matters more than ever because superhero fatigue isn't about the number of movies. It's about the number of bad or forgettable ones. People will always show up for good stories. The DCU can avoid Marvel's biggest pitfall. If Gunn sticks to this principle, the DCU has a chance to age gracefully. Instead of burning bright and fading fast, it can build a universe that feels intentional, thoughtful, and consistently rewarding. Number 9. Audience targeting. Why DC's clear messaging matters.
I didn't want him killing my parents' cows.
One of the sneaky reasons Marvel started slipping was confusion about who their movies were really for. Early on, the MCU nailed it. Films like Iron Man, The Avengers, and Guardians of the Galaxy struck a perfect balance between kid-friendly fun and adult appeal. Families could show up, teens could geek out, and adults could enjoy the spectacle without feeling pandered to. But in recent years, the balance tipped. Some projects leaned too goofy, Thor, Love and Thunder, others too dark, Moon Knight, and the inconsistency left audiences unsure what they were signing up for. James Gunn seems to be steering the DCU away from that problem by making the tone and target of each project crystal clear. Superman, a hopeful, family-friendly blockbuster designed to inspire the widest possible audience. Peacemaker Season 2, absolutely not for kids, complete with explicit jokes, violence, and even, reportedly, an orgy scene. Clayface, that one's straight-up horror, targeted at adults who want to be creeped out as much as thrilled, and Gunn is upfront about all of it. This matters because audiences hate bait and switch. No one wants to take their kids to a movie expecting light-hearted superhero fun only to get slapped with R-rated shock value. Likewise, adult fans looking for something edgy don't want watered-down fluff. By clearly defining who each project is for, the DCU can avoid alienating viewers and instead build trust. Fans will know exactly what kind of experience they're buying a ticket for. Marvel often tries to keep everything within a PG-13 4-quadrant sweet spot, which limits experimentation. The DCU, on the other hand, is signaling that it's okay for projects to serve different audiences. That flexibility means they can deliver both billion-dollar crowd pleasers and niche passion projects without the two stepping on each other's toes. The DCU is protecting itself from backlash while carving out space for bolder storytelling. And in a market where audiences are overwhelmed with choices, Number 10. Momentum and the long game, how DC can keep the crown once they take it.
You put nanobot GPS trackers in your friend's bloodstream?
Oh, I do that to everybody.
Winning one battle is easy. Winning the war, that's the real challenge. And that's exactly what the DCU has to think about right now. Superman was a massive success. It proved audiences are ready to believe in DC again, but if they want to actually dethrone Marvel in the long run, they can't rely on one hit. They need momentum, they need consistency, they need a plan. Marvel's greatest trick wasn't just creating individual blockbusters, it was stringing them together into a cultural event that lasted for over a decade. Even if one movie stumbled, the next one usually pulled things back on track. That trust is what allowed Marvel to dominate. Now, the DCU has a chance to build that same trust. Gunn has already mapped out Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, which includes films like Supergirl and series like Lanterns. This roadmap isn't just about releasing content. It's about pacing, variety, and giving audiences a reason to stay engaged year after year. The key is not to oversaturate the market or flood fans with too much at once. Instead, it's about delivering steady, high-quality projects that each feel like an event. Momentum also means balancing familiar icons with fresh faces. Superman may be the anchor, but characters like Supergirl, Swamp Thing, and Booster Gold give the DCU depth and unpredictability. That way, audiences don't just latch onto one hero, they latch onto an entire ecosystem of stories. If Gunn resists the urge to rush projects for the sake of deadlines, the DCU could avoid Marvel's post-Endgame burnout and instead grow stronger with each chapter. The long game is about patience, trust, and consistency. If DC plays this right, by the end of the decade, people won't be asking if the DCU can compete with the MCU. They'll be asking if Marvel can ever catch up again. So here we are. The DCU stands at the edge of something huge. For the first time in years, the superhero game feels wide open. Marvel, once unstoppable, is stumbling through identity crises and overloaded timelines. Meanwhile, DC has a brand new slate, a bold philosophy, and a Superman that reminded audiences why they fell in love with heroes in the first place. But let's be real, this isn't going to be an overnight victory. Beating Marvel means more than just outgrossing them at the box office once or twice. It means building momentum, telling unforgettable stories, and giving fans a reason to keep showing up year after year. And if James Gunn and his team stay true to their word, prioritizing story over schedules, creative freedom over factory line movies, and sincerity over endless snark, then yeah, DC might just pull it off. Imagine it. 5 years from now, we could be looking at a cinematic universe where Superman inspires, Supergirl shocks, Lanterns digs deep, and even villains like Clayface steal the spotlight. A universe where every project feels unique, where fans don't need homework to join in, and where superheroes feel magical again. Now, whether they actually deliver, that's the part we'll all be watching unfold together. Because in this new era of superhero cinema, who wears the crown, Marvel or DC? But one thing's for sure, the fight for that crown is about to get very, very interesting. So what do you think? Can the DCU really beat the MCU in the coming years? Or is Marvel still the undisputed king of the game? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is just getting started.